You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
We're here in the little seacoast town of Onoto Bay in the parish of St. Mary for the Ministry of Tourism's official opening of Markingstone Beach. Business Access TV brings you highlights from Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett and other stakeholders. Stay with us.
We have recognized, and the Minister has instructed us to ensure that we are rehabilitating and developing beaches across Jamaica to ensure that there are enough public beaches for our people to, I know sometimes they call us dryland tourists, but for us to enjoy the benefits of this beautiful country. Today is a continuation of openings of various tourism developments across St. Mary, and the minister and his entourage have been just coming from Rio Nuevo village, which is quite impressive, and I overheard the minister saying how impressed he was with it. And so it's a message to St. Mary to say, listen, tourism recognizes you and we are here facilitating the development. Now, tourism is one of those industries where it requires partnerships. And so no matter how much we do from the ministry, it requires partnerships with stakeholders, partnerships with municipalities, partnerships with the people to ensure that the standards are maintained and are as high as possible. And we build on the legacy that we have here in Jamaica as one of the best destinations in the world.
Well, this transformation here at Markingstone is one of many that we're doing across the island. You see, tourism is changing quite a bit with the advent of technology that opens up an opportunity for the average Jamaican to actually benefit from tourism. It's not only a case where they need to work inside a hotel or to supply a hotel, they can also benefit from renting out their space. Because Jamaica, thankfully, we've been blessed where anywhere you go in Jamaica, you can find a beach or a river or a waterfall or a mountain. You can have some great experience, and with the natural weather and our natural hospitable culture and so on, we end up pretty much having an industry, a resource that's available to every Jamaican to become a tourism entrepreneur. So how that is enhanced is if all the beaches that are dotted across the island are then developed so that restroom facilities are in place, so one, the environment is protected, but we demonstrate respect and provide that convenience to anybody who uses the beach and so on. So, you know, seating areas, parking spaces, security, lifeguards and so on. And that's what we've done here, and we are doing across Jamaica to open up Jamaica more. It's not only on the north coast, or it's all over Jamaica. We want to make it a case where tourists and the diaspora and Jamaicans are enjoying what we've been blessed with naturally. So that is the purpose of investing in beaches like the Markingstone Beach and getting the result that we have today.
I have visited this facility. I passed by here just the other day before the work was complete, but on entering the gate I was wondering, am I really at Markingstone Beach? And that is a testimony to the work that has been done here. I noticed I saw some persons out there enjoying the facility already, so it is a good sign. We are eternally grateful to the Tourism Enhancement Fund for spending, I won't mention the figure, maybe the minister will do that later, but significant funds on this facility. And as I said, it looks like a first-class beach. Those of us who know Markingstone before would understand why I am so excited based on what I have seen. the St. Mary Municipal Corporation has owned this facility for a long time. Although, Minister, this is one of the properties that is everybody knows belongs to the St. Mary Municipal Corporation. However, it is in the name of Commissioner of Lands. We have interviewed interested parties in terms of leasing this facility because we don't have the capability to run such a facility. So we have interviewed persons, we have sent to the Ministry of Local Government for them to approve so that we can have somebody run the facility and run it properly as to how it should be.
What does growth in tourism mean for Onoto Bay?
Well, it means a lot in that we will be bringing more tourists here, then we'll provide more jobs and more opportunities for our locals. So it is indeed important to us. This facility that has been renovated, we hope, based on the individual will run it, we hope it will be run in a way that we will actually get tourists here as well as locals. But apart from this facility alone, we are looking at other heritage tourism developments throughout the parish, and we took the minister on a tour of an area in Portmore, a very historic area, where we are trying to do a tour of that area. So we have formed a committee and we are looking into getting some funding from the Tourism Enhancement Fund to make that tour a reality.
The corporation has authority to manage the beach. How will the upkeep be guided?
The upkeep will be guided by statuses under the Local Governance Act and also our act in relation to our Building Act, the Town and Country Planning Act. We use all of those because as a local building authority, local planning authority, we also work along with other state agencies to manage our beaches, to manage our public spaces. So not only us will be responsible for the management of the beach, but we will also be using guidelines from other state agencies. We'll ensure that the park has the requisite number of lifeguards, has the requisite safety facilities in place, for example, your backboards, your first aid kits, as I said, your lifeguards. As you can see, the lifeguard stands are already here. So we are ensuring that the safety of the members, not only of the workers, but of the general public, are taken into consideration, the security of the site in itself. We're going to ensure that the beach and itself will be developed into a recreational space, a park, so that the locals for not only Onoto Bay but the greater St. Mary will also be served and our visitors to this country.
What other important purpose does this transformation serve for the people of Onoto Bay?
It serves a very important purpose because it is an active open space. It's somewhere that you'll need for relaxation and rejuvenation because you work in a very stressful environment no matter where it is, and you are going to need a space where you can relax, you can congregate with your family, with your friends. So this is a facility that is needed for any community to fully develop an active open space area. This, I believe, is one of the premier sites in this area. It is not only going to be used as a beach park in itself, it's one of the areas that is going to be used, for example, like for your parties, because it is a little outside of the town, so you won't have that congestion in the town itself. So it will be used for that sort of facilities. It is well-needed facility, and we will endeavor to not only maintain as it is right now, but we'll also be developing for other facilities within this area.
We're gonna go for a break, but when we return, more from the Marking Stone Beach in Onoto Bay, St. Mary.
Taking the pain out of the audit preparation. Crow Jamaica now offers audit management services, AMS. With AMS, Crow team manages your external audit process by providing the following. 1. Prepare and review schedules for your external auditors. 2. Prepare responses to your external audit team queries. 3. Assign our team members to locate supporting documents during field work. 4. Draft financial statements in accordance with IFRS to supply to your external auditors. 5. Provide guidance to your internal accounting staff regarding classification and recording of transactions. 6. Review your general ledger for accuracy. 7. Prepare necessary journal entries. 8. Prepare fixed asset register. 9. Prepare accounting and operational manual for effective internal control. 10. Liaise with the company external auditors. We work with your team to achieve timely and effective external audits, resulting in timely completion of your audited financial statement, while your current staff focuses on their daily activities. Contact us, info@crowhorwath.com.jm. Website, www.crow.com/jm.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life. Highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
And we're back. Thanks for staying with us for the coverage of the opening of the Marking Stone Beach held in Annotto Bay, St. Mary. Here's more.
You know, it also gives me great pride and a pleasure to be here today. And why this is so, I was whispering in the ears of the minister that this beach here has a special place in my heart as well. I can't tell you why. I mean, I've told him why, and I told Bob also. I can't tell nobody else. But when I was a little boy, I used to come to this beach regularly, and then when I became a young man, I used to come to this beach, but not just in the days, but in the nights as well. So you can understand what I'm talking about, right? Oh, yeah. But what is so pleasing is for the facility to be brought up to this level. And when I toured along with the minister, especially in the bathrooms, this is not just a hurry come up bathroom. This is a bathroom that can rival any facility in the world. I mean, the bathroom is well put together. And Bob, this is something that I hope, I may have mentioned it before, and I guess all the speakers will mention it, that building these properties is one thing, but to maintain them is the other thing. We want to know that when you come to facilities, you feel good that you're in the right place, not just somewhere that you just have to use. And this is a country, we're building a country based on excellence. Marking Stone Beach is also a manifestation of the quality development, and I know that Bob, with his expertise, when you come back here, Minister, this lawns will be pristine with green grass and flowering plants all around. And I was mentioning to the councillor earlier about the almond trees. You know, when these grow and become good shades across these seats, it will be a sight to behold. And that's what we want. We want facilities that we not only build, but we are proud to call our own, because we're building this new Jamaica. And before I come down, I want to again say special thanks to the minister. This is one minister, when you ask him about projects that means Jamaica well, he never says no. And I remember just coming into politics, and I asked him about several developments across Southeast St. Mary. And I'm proud to say that he has responded so well, and the people of Southeast is very thankful to you, sir. And look for your continued showering us with your blessings. We welcome this particular development, as with most developments that are taking place across Jamaica. But this development is special for me in a number of ways. As a member of parliament for this area, I mean, the development is welcome, but more importantly, I was born here, and this was one of my beaches that I used to visit when I was a little boy. And you know, I grew to love and appreciate this particular area. As you can see, it's very idyllic. It's away from the hustle and bustle, and it is very suitable for a day of full relaxation and fun. So we welcome it.
What does this transformation mean to you?
No, it means a lot, because what is happening and what has happened to a number of small communities across Jamaica, sometimes the development doesn't pass through or is not evident in those areas. So having something like this now shows that development can come to the local areas, and therefore it's important for us to appreciate this sort of development. And not only that, it might be a catalyst for other developments that will take place in a particular area. As you can see, it sits on the corridor, a major thoroughfare through this constituency.
How will you ensure sustainable management of this here beach?
Well, one of the things which we are very big on is not just the development of these facilities, but the maintenance of these facilities. And what has happened so far, which is quite remarkable, we have had a number of persons, I get to understand, that were interested in this facility, and they have selected one such individual now who is from the area as well. So this is somebody from the area who not only has a business interest, but has a personal connection to it. So the facility is for us in Onoto Bay. I'd like to say thank you very much to the Minister, to TEF, and all the persons who have participated in this, to the Municipal Corporation, the Mayor, and the Councillor of this particular division, which is the Onoto Bay division, for their work in getting the facility to what it is. And we are happy for it, and I'm sure going forward, the persons who will use the facility will also find that it is a welcome addition to what we have. There are a number of other things which are going to come about in Southeast St. Mary that I'd like to say will happen in a very short time. We're getting a number of things done finally in Southeast St. Mary, because we believe that we can take our pride and rightful place in this development and this Jamaica that we are creating.
I'm therefore pleased to be here today to hand over an upgraded Marking Stone beach to complement your offerings. The beach was upgraded by the Tourism Enhancement Fund at a cost of $38.3 million as part of its National Beach Development Program. And I want to make the point that sometimes comments are made in advance of action known to begin, and the actions, when they follow, gives an impression as though they are being driven by another direction. But these series of beaches that we are going to be opening and handing over between now and the end of the year makes the story and tells the tale very well, that this represents work done, activities in train, and now work completed and ready to be handled. So we have done the upgrading here, not on the basis of providing a beach facility, but on the basis of providing a complete entertainment facility and an attraction in its own right. And when you look at what is done here, and you see that we have constructed a guardhouse, 3 gazebos, well-appointed restrooms, and I want you to take note of that. When you finish, go and look in those restrooms. And that's what we're talking about, because it makes no sense to have a wonderful beach and a beautiful facility, nice eating areas, and then afterwards you go to another place. We want you to go to a place equally appointed and well prepared and fit for purpose. We have parking facilities as well as landscaping work, among other significant improvements that you will see. We recognize that beaches are a great resource of tourism. In fact, our scenic beaches attract a large number of domestic and inbound tourists. This is why we have ensured that the TEF has committed to transform one beach in every parish to a quality recreational space. And remember the point I'm making, not to have a nice beach, but a quality recreational space. And it must operate at the highest and best international standards for a country such as ours. And it must be available to residents and visitors alike. So to date, we have spent $104 million for 3 beaches in the overall beach program. And the next one we will open properly is going to be licensed, where we spend $49 million to upgrade. And then we're going to do Boston Beach, and we're going to do Winifred Beach, and we are going to do other beaches in the West, because the West has to be touched too, and we are going to be doing beaches along the South Coast as well. Those of us who have leadership in the political arena have a duty to guide and to lead and to enlighten and to ensure that that higher level of presentation is always kept in sight, and not to be part of any process that will help to lead people to be left out of the mainstream of development because our facilities are substandard. And as minister, I'm committed to that process. And this ministry will continue through the efforts of the TEF to upgrade and continue to enhance the quality of the Jamaican product, and to ensure that our ordinary Jamaican entrepreneurs, our little man, as we call it, have a nice, decent place to peddle their wares, where they can wash their hands and have proper conveniences, and they can feel and move around with air and space. And the visitors who come can also leave with a good impression and say when they leave Jamaica, what a wonderful little country that I have been. It was a joy to go to the markets in Jamaica. But we know that change is never a linear process, and that change sometimes requires a little bit of hand-holding. And we know that change sometimes causes a little bit of disruption. And sometimes we don't understand it, and when we don't understand it, we become suspicious of it. So we are going to work with our partners, and we're going to make sure that we hold hands and do it right, and do it together, and do the transformation from poverty to prosperity.
We pride ourselves in being a destination of sand, sea, and sun. And so we bring the world here for a beach experience as well. So it's a big part of the product in Jamaica. But we are careful to note that it represents a huge part of our resources that are being consumed by our people, and that the access represents an important route to ensuring that there's harmony between visitors and locals. So we have moved with energy and haste to prepare and fix local beaches that are appropriate and adequate and appointed for the purpose, so that our people will not be left out and we will feel less catered to because the beaches are not up to the standards.
How does this help or harm locals in the tourism sector?
We are now looking at management to ensure that there is good management here, so that the maintenance of these facilities can be secured and the further upgrading of what we have can be realized.
Who is responsible for the management, and how will it be guided?
Well, we developed the beach on behalf of the St. Mary Municipal Corporation, and what the Municipal Corporation has done is to then go to tender and procure and find a suitable person to manage and to handle the facilities here. So they have done that, and they tell me that they have found someone, and we will be looking to ensure that they keep up to the standard that we want for the beach.
How much of a challenge was the transformation for this beach in particular?
It truly was a challenge because, as you can see, this is just a dust bowl. That's what it was. And with the black sand beach, it's sometimes a little more difficult to work with than the traditional white sand beaches. But I think that the teams did well. Our technical people from TEF and TPDCO who drove the process were enough to the task, and they did a great job, and I'm satisfied that it didn't take us as long as we thought. In fact, we figured it might have been a little over a year when we started, but we were able to do it within a year, and I thank them for that efficiency.
And that brings to a close the official opening of Markingstone Beach here in Onoto Bay, St. Mary. I'm Javon Keys for Business Access TV, serious about business.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show. And Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Now presenting the Jamaica Social Investment Fund ICDP Enterprise Development Project. Entrepreneurial Grant Business Pitch.
This project is a $100 million grant that's seeking to target 50 small and micro business enterprises and give them training, capacity development, equipment, permits and license towards the development and the viability of their business. We have made a call for proposal in March of this year for entrepreneurs to submit for the opportunity to receive a grant between $1 and $5 million. We received more than 500 applications, and so we have now shortlisted them to 100. So we've invited that top 100 applicants here today, and they're going to have to pitch their business idea to a panel, and of the 150 will actually transpire and win the opportunity for the grants. One of the primary objectives of what we're doing here is employment. We want the business to be able to sustain not only the principals as the owners, but we also want the business to be able to employ at least 2 people. The next part of it, as we do in all of our projects like this, is it provides a learning instrument of how we can engage small and micro enterprises and take them to the next level.
Why we're doing this rigorous process? Because we want to identify the best potential entrepreneurs for this project. And keep in mind that we are speaking about a loan, so we want to ensure that applicants are committed, and that from a sustainability point of view, that upon receiving the support from JSIP, that in 2 or 3 years, the enterprises will still be operational and the broader objective of the project would be achieved. Once we have now equipped them and they should be ready to start their production line going, we'll then have a mentorship component.
It has been a very competitive process. Jamaica is filled with persons with drive and passion. We're expecting that the best will be selected, and then for those who are not successful, we are also hoping to link them to other providers of services, because I'm telling you today, from what I've seen, it is an excellent opportunity. It's worthy of note that many persons coming here today already have some kind of semblance of a business, but they need the additional support to move that business to the other level, as well as some persons that come in with just proposals to start from scratch.
On behalf of the JSIF, we want to really thank the DBJ and other partners from UE who came to be part of the panel, and just to remind you that the JSIF is here and we're investing for community development.
Good day. Thanks for joining us on another Jamaica Magazine program. I'm Adrian Atkinson, your host for the next half hour. From road development to increasing water supply, today's show has a bit of information from all areas. We kick things off with a word of advice, followed by the news.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk, and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
Good day, I'm Sandra Clark and this is your JIS News for Monday, September 30. Standard & Poor's S&P has upgraded Jamaica's long-term foreign and local currency rating from B to B+. S&P on Friday also gave the country's short-term foreign and local sovereign credit ratings a B. The outlook remains stable. The transfer and convertibility assessment was rated B-, coming from a B+ by the International Rating Agency. According to Standard & Poor's, the rating is a result of Jamaica's sustained progress in achieving macroeconomic stability and strengthening of its external liquidity. The rating comes just a few days after Jamaica completed its sixth and final review of the 3-year precautionary standby arrangement with the International Monetary Fund. Prime Minister Andrew Holness is currently in the U.S. capital of Washington, D.C., where he's tapped to hold high-level bilateral talks with Vice President Mike Pence. The talks comes on the heels of discussions with President Donald Trump while at the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York last week. At that time, the ongoing situation in Venezuela, energy security, and other areas of interest between the two countries were discussed. While in Washington, D.C., Mr. Holness is expected to meet with the president of the Inter-American Development Bank, Luis Moreno. Talks are also to be had with the heads of state from nations in the Gulf. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says a tree planting initiative aimed at combating climate change is to be launched shortly. The National Tree Planting Initiative will see over 3 million trees being planted across the island, representing 1 tree for every Jamaican citizen. Mr. Holness says the program will be launched on October 4 at Jamaica House and will be carried out over a 3-year period.
We remain committed to the reduction of the erosion of watersheds and the attendant impact on coastal ecosystems. We are partnering with others to ensure that our marine environment, on which our socio-economic survival depends, is being sustainably utilized and managed.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness was addressing the 74th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Friday. Mr. Holness used the occasion to recommit Jamaica's participation in fora that will further enhance action against climate change. Jamaica now has a survey of establishments that provides data on the total number of entities participating in commercial, business, and other similar engagements across Jamaica. The 2018 report will assist the public and private sectors to formulate strategies, policies, and programs. Findings from the survey will also be used as an input for the Statistical Business Registrar, SBR, which is maintained by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin. Endorsing the report at the launch last Wednesday, Minister of Finance Dr. Nigel Clark said it provides a baseline for related future surveys.
It is absolutely crucial to have reliable data on which policy can be formulated and data on which private enterprises can base their strategies. We are recognizing that policy that is built on the background or on the foundation of data is policy that can actually be forceful in alleviating the concerns and the problems that we face.
Meanwhile, Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica PIOJ, Dr. Wayne Henry, said the data will help to identify and understand economic trends and assist with the growth and expansion for businesses.
The PIOJ and its partners in producing the JC are confident that this and future surveys will contribute significantly to filling the need for data to enhance business, economic planning and development in Jamaica.
The Jamaica Survey establishment was carried out by Statin and published by the PIOJ. Funding support is from the World Bank through the Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth project. The Ministry of Justice says it will be revising the Dogs Liability of Injuries Act to make owners of dogs that attack persons be criminally liable. The decision was made following the recent attack on a school teacher by 4 pit bulls. Portfolio Minister Delroy Chuck says currently the law only provides for compensation when a person is attacked or injured.
We're going to repeal that law. That's the Dogs Liabilities for Injuries Act, and put in place Dogs Liability of Owners Act. So the burden will be on owners to ensure that their dogs are kept under control. And if the dogs are not kept under control, and they should escape from the yard, escape from the leash, and injure persons, then there will be the possibility, remember I'm saying these are proposals, of criminal liability.
Minister Chuck was speaking last Thursday at a contract signing and press briefing. The minister says other stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development and the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, will assist in updating the legislation. And finally, $2.8 million will be used by government to train 30 school administrators how to better serve and educate students with special education needs. These include principals, vice principals, and members of school boards from selected schools across the island. This is being facilitated through a Memorandum of Understanding signed recently with the Ministry of Education, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, and the National College for Educational Leadership, NCEL.
The course will seek to help educators to transform their physical school environment and classrooms to encourage inclusivity and to facilitate the maximum learning of children with disabilities. The course will seek to help educators to make intentional attempts to inculcate in teachers the dispositions needed for them to create inclusive classrooms.
And that's important because while we do things in the classrooms, while we do things with the students, it is also important that we spend the necessary time to focus on the principals and the vice principals who provide leadership in the schools.
The Inclusive School Leadership course is being funded by JSIF through its Basic Needs Trust Fund and administered by NCEL. The course is aimed at strengthening the capacity of principals to create inclusive school environments that will ensure children living with disabilities can be successfully enrolled in mainstream schools. And that's it for JIS News today. I'm Sandra Clark. Thanks for watching.
The Hagley Park Road Improvement Project is over 80% complete. Yes, the government is ensuring that you get to and from your destination with as little a hassle as possible. Get more details from the National Works Agency.
Driving through 3 miles all the way down Hagley Park Road a few years ago might have been any of these things for you. A chaotic encounter of traffic from maybe about 3 sections of the island. A resounding morning and evening tune of piercing vehicular horns. Or An irksome journey for a motoring public in a hurry, but hardly going anywhere. With 70,000 vehicles filtered through the 3 miles area daily, it's one of the country's busiest intersections, and now one of the most accommodating. Here's how we dissect 4 separate components of the work at the Hagley Park Road Legacy Project.
As it relates to the bridge here at Portia Simpson Miller Square, the bridges are complete. As a matter of fact, they are in use. What is left to be done is that along the structure that takes persons along Spanish Town Road, we have a bit of paving to do at the eastern end of that lane, or those lanes that take persons towards downtown Kingston. The contractor is now working to do the final bit of work so that the asphaltic concrete works can begin on those 2 lanes that take traffic into downtown Kingston. The lanes that take traffic out of the city towards 6 Mile, those lanes have been done. We still have a bit of work to do along Spanish Town Road up to the boundary. So part and parcel of what we intend to do is to have certain points along Hagley Park Road signalized. So we intend to put back the signals, and we have done so at Woodglen Avenue. We have put up a new set of signals at O'Mara Road, also at Keesing Avenue, Margaret Villa. We are yet to have the signals there installed, but rest assured, this will be done before the project is complete. We are also going to be putting back the signals at Waltham Park Road and Hagley Park Road. Signals are there as we speak, but those are of a temporary nature. The permanent signals will be put up at all of these locations. In respect of the laying of the main sewer trunk, that has been completed. We still have work to do in respect of the connections that are to be made to the different entities along Hagley Park Road. That, of course, will be done by the National Water Commission at the appropriate time. In respect of the stormwater drains, we still have a bit of work to do in the 3 miles area to ensure that all the new features that we have installed, that there is interconnectivity taking the water into the main drain that takes it out to sea. So I would say that the drainage network is somewhere in the 90s insofar as percentage complete is concerned. In terms of the corridor, we would have completed the widening activity. What is being done now in terms of activities, we are putting in the sidewalks in areas along Hagley Park Road. We still have some work to do in respect of the completion of infrastructure to do with the laying of some docks, but that I expect will be completed in very, very short order so that the sidewalk works can move apace in those areas where such activity is outstanding.
So, if you're heading to 6 Miles, if you're going to downtown, or heading to Marcus Garvey Drive or Halfway Tree, that converging conflict at 3 Miles is much easier on the motoring public. Now, the Hagley Park Road Legacy Project is about 80% complete, but already the motoring public that are still in a hurry seem to be moving. and the honking horns play at a reduced decibel.
Now we have been able to separate the traffic into 3 distinct flows. And so that in and of itself would have brought some significant benefits to the motoring public.
But recognizing that there are still outstanding works to be done, persons are being encouraged to use the road with extreme caution.
As the days and the weeks are ticked off, rest assured that persons will start to not only see but feel the benefits of the improved works that we have done along Hagley Park Road.
When you're on the road, take your time. When you're on the road, bear this in mind. When you're on the road, you could save a life when you're on the road.
Government is utilizing all ways and means to ensure that your water supply is uninterrupted. Hear more next.
Hello and welcome to OPM Connect, the program that helps explain government's activities and policies. I'm Naomi Francis. Today we look at water management, especially in regards to the corporate areas. Some communities are experiencing a lack of or shortage of water, if you will. And so today we're being joined by the Minister with responsibility for water. He really is the Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Senator the Honorable Pernell Charles Jr. Welcome, sir. We also have Mr. Michael Dunn, the Vice President of Operations for the Eastern Division at the National Water Commission. And joining us too is Mr. Audley Thompson, the Managing Director of Rural Water Supply Limited. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This is a hot button issue. Water is life, as they say. Minister, help us understand what's really going on regarding the provision of water, particularly in some communities in the corporate area.
Well, firstly, it is the most challenging of topics. And besides our national security, I think that for Jamaica now, this has been the topic on the radio, in the communities, in the churches, because water is so critical to every aspect of your life. That's why our Prime Minister has truly mandated that we ramp up the communication so we can ensure that the public is fully aware of the accurate information and of the situation we are in. We are committed, firstly, to ensuring that we develop a system that will allow us to not repeat the mistakes of the past. We've inherited a system which is deficient and vulnerable because it relies so much on rainfall. And we're moving towards, in the medium and long term, a system that will introduce different means of sourcing and delivering water and reducing the wastage. But in the short term, which is what people want to hear, what are we doing? So the NWC and the Rural Water, in addition to other agencies and the municipalities, have been working very hard to really assess the drought, which has been an intense and a prolonged drought. It has caused us to see massive reductions in flow to the rivers, which feed into our treatment systems. And so the reality, the practical reality for us, take for instance our Mona Reservoir, which has a capacity of 808.5 million gallons. When you're seeing that at 30%, 35% now, which is improved, it gives you a very clear appreciation that we have to be very efficient with what we have.
What's happening at Hermitage, Mr. Dunn?
Okay, well, Hermitage is currently at about 40% of capacity.
Wow,
So
still below 50.
Absolutely. So we are producing on an average about 8 million gallons of water per day. On a normal circumstance, the demand is 16 million. So you can see there where the deficit and where the shortfall is.
Yes.
And as the minister had pointed out, Mona which is just about 30-35% of capacity, 35 to be accurate, we are producing roughly about 8 million gallons.
There's a real problem.
So there is a deficit.
With the resources we have, though, you're saying that not all customers of the National Water Commission is affected. So tell us exactly what is happening in terms of the distribution of water.
All right, so let me tell you, because it's not the entire corporate areas that is affected. And if I would start from 6 miles, so Duane Park, Washington Gardens, Patrick City, Meadowbrook Estate, Queensboro, Havendale, Meadowbrook, Forest Hill, Chancery, Stonehill don't have a problem.
They have regular water?
They have regular water supply. It's only the area that is bordered on along like State Gardens, Zeta Gardens, Dunrobin Court, areas along Mullines Road, and locations along Walton Park Roads and some part of Eastwood Park Road that are Maxfield Avenue that are currently being affected, and that is directly in relation to the unrepaired pipeline that has been out of operation since December last year. We are expecting, as the minister probably tell you, that that pipeline should be back in operation sometime by December of this year. There is a particular pipeline from 6 miles that run all the way along Smallstone Road up to Glenmore Road that has been there for in excess of 50 years. And it's a very, very shaky infrastructure. And that is limiting or reducing our ability to be able to bring additional water into Kingston up to Mariska Road. So that pipeline to the tune, to the extent of $60 million is being contemplated, and in fact is far along in terms of being replacement. So that is going to be an added solution to the problem. What the minister had mentioned.
That's a solution in the corporate area.
Yes.
And so we're focused on the corporate area because it seems the corporate area has the greatest issue. What about the rest of Jamaica, and in particular too, the population density in areas such as Portmore, Clarendon?
Okay, well, we don't have a problem in St. Catherine as we speak.
Don't?
Okay? No, we don't have a problem in Portmore.
Including Ayrshire?
Including Ayrshire, and as I had pointed out to you earlier, the problem with Portmore is more of an operational issues related to GPS and so forth. Now, that matter has been sorted out, but what we have also done to improve the service level to Portmore is that there are 2 additional wells at Goshen Government Park. One has already been put back in place, and the other one will be ready by within another month or thereabout. And with those 2 wells coming into operation, there will be an additional 1 million gallons going to Portmore, which should be able to suffice and meet the demand in Portmore. So there should not be an issue in Portmore. And as we speak, Portmore really don't have an issue.
Okay.
Outside of the occasional operational challenges.
So apart from the corporate area then, Mr. Dunn, you're saying that we're pretty much okay with the rest of Jamaica?
Well, let me tell you, the rest of Jamaica, the West is really not seeing a problem. There is currently a situation in Portland and St. Mary and St. Anne. A lot of those locations are surface sources, and those rivers are running very, very low. Some of the streams have dried up completely. So we are having a challenge in those areas. It's not much on the news, but it is still a problem. In fact, we have been able to kind of manage the station very well by moving the water around from one location to another and sharing it, doing a bit of regulation, augment with trucking. So that has been okay. I noticed, you would have noticed that you have not heard in the news about schools being out of water, and so we have been able to manage that situation very well by doing extensive trucking, and that seems to be kind of making the problem as less.
What does Rural Water Supply Limited do?
The non-utility service areas are mainly areas that are managed by the municipal corporation and in some instance community organizations. These are small systems, right? And the modality of supply might be a spring, might be a river source, might be catchment tanks in terms of rainwater harvesting. Rural Water Supply Limited have gotten, as the minister explained, an increased budget of $800 million for this financial year. At present, we intend to complete 26 systems in rural areas. We're talking about water supply systems. So far, we have started approximately 14 projects, right, in spanning all over the island, right? If you call a parish, I can tell you what project we are doing there and when we intend to complete it.
Portland.
In Portland, you have Kildare, Charlestown. You have an old pipeline that normally supplies Buff Bay, right? And that is being replaced. You have Bangor Ridge up in the hills of West Portland, right? They have challenges in terms of water. We are fixing up an entombment, we are piping it, and we're also fixing up a catchment tank. That's in West Portland.
Boy, you've challenged me, and
East
I gave
Portland.
you the challenge,
East
and you
Portland.
picked it up very good.
East Portland, you have some challenges along the strip from Ferry Hill to Long Bay.
Yes, I've heard
Boston,
that.
the water there is salty. We are doing some investigation in drilling a new well in Islington to actually improve that system. Right? So you see, we're working in East and West Portland.
And what about St. Elizabeth, for example?
Or at St. Elizabeth, Top Aberdeen. We're doing a system in Top Aberdeen where the municipal corporation has been at us for several years, right? And we are now putting in place where we're going to take some water, we're going to put up a solar pumping station, and we're going to be building reservoirs and things like that.
Yes. So certainly you're integrating the entire island and not focus too much on the corporate area. You're making sure that everybody has a sense of priority, really, so to speak. We really want to acknowledge the fact that the Prime Minister leading the delegation to the United Nations General Assembly is really, really paying attention to this matter of climate change adaptation, mitigation, and of course, financing. Very, very important, and certainly it's something that we all as Jamaicans must watch and must find a way to be a part of in terms of solutions. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's edition of OPM Connect. Join us again next week for another interesting discussion.
I'm deeply concerned by the number of Jamaicans killed on our roads. Safety on our roads is our responsibility. Jamaicans, drivers, passengers, motorcyclists, and pedestrians, slow down. Observe the rules of the road. Be courteous. Drive defensively. Be considerate. Buckle up. Wear a helmet. The careless overtaker is only rushing to the undertaker. Not observing the rules of the road could cost you your life and that of your loved ones. I encourage all road users to take special care as we use public thoroughfares. The life you save may be your own. Remember, your family wants you to arrive alive.
Garbage collection, maintenance of public sanitary conveniences, upkeep of cemeteries, provision of water shops, road improvement, street lights, poor relief programs, community beautification. All these services are funded by you. Yes, they are, when you pay your property tax. Pay your annual property tax to make Jamaica the place of choice for all.
And that's all the time we have on this station. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another informative program. We are available online at your leisure. Visit gis.gov.jm, add our social media pages, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and download our mobile app to your smartphone. On behalf of the entire team here at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.
Sundays at 4:30 p.m. It's all about Home Sweet Home. Get your half-hour dose of the business of real estate, from laws and concepts to reality, building, buying, or renting. Or what about trends in decor or renovations? Home Sweet Home will keep you up to date.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow.
And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access TV.
Serious.
Serious.
Serious about business.
Business Access TV welcomes you to the 2019 Sterling Asset Management Investor Briefing, being held under the theme, Is Export-Led Growth Right for Jamaica? Hi, I'm Elon Parkinson. Let's stay for the highlights.
Before we get into some hard-hitting questions, I want to give each person on the panel just 2 minutes, a strict 2 minutes, to tell us their outlook on what's going on. Our theme this evening is the role of monetary policy in driving export-driven growth. We'll get into that a bit more in more detail later, but right now I wanted to give each gentleman a chance to give us their outlook on the economy, what's been going on, and a chance to air some of what they think is most important.
Bank of Jamaica is focused now on building the wherewithal, the infrastructure, the methodologies of entrenching low, stable, and predictable inflation. That has been a missing factor for much of our history, and over the last 10 years, with a series of reforms, we've worked to get to where we are now, where inflation is fairly predictable, the external accounts are sustainable, the fiscal accounts are in great shape, the debt is falling. What we need now is the infrastructure that can entrench low and stable inflation as a long-term expectation. And that's critical to our growth prospects. It's critical to how investors behave, if they can predict the future with some certainty. It's critical to the exchange rate behavior. It's critical to maintaining a competitive exchange rate, which is a critical factor in export-led growth.
I mean, what I would say is, at this particular juncture, there is a lot of discussion about Jamaica exiting from IMF financial support. Maybe I could take the 2.5 minutes to say what does that mean for us or for the Jamaican people. For us, it means that the financial leg of our operation in Jamaica ends, but that's only one of the functions that the IMF performs as an institution. So we do lend to countries, that's one. But the two other legs will remain, because what we also do is that we do coach countries how to run policies, how to reform the tax administration, a wide range of issues. So we think of ourselves as coach. We also think of us, we are very ambitious, so we also think of ourselves as doctor. So we visit our 189 member countries to do what we call health check. Even if there is no program, even if we don't have a lending agreement with those countries, we do visit them annually to perform health check and offer our advice on policies. And you will be surprised to learn that the latest data show that in 2018, lending was only 14%, 1/4 of IMF resources. The other 86% went to coaching countries and to doing the health check of those countries. So after the IMF program finished and towards the end of this year, the partnership between Jamaica and the IMF will remain. And as a matter of fact, the IMF office will remain open. So all the pillars that will help Jamaica entrench the hard-won gain over the past 6 years are being put in place. You can think about the Fiscal Council that Minister Clark has been pushing for, and there is a lot of work going into that to make sure that there is a watchdog that will ensure that whichever administration comes to power, there are binding fiscal targets that would guide the conduct of fiscal policy. There is a bill in the parliament currently on ensuring that the central bank is independent enough to conduct monetary policy freely. And there are all kinds of reforms precisely to make sure that the pillars, the foundations are there for Jamaica to sustain the reform momentum that we've seen over the past few years.
Well, that's good to know that the IMF will continue its presence. And of course, we really value, I know the local analyst community really values the data that both the BOJ and the IMF do a great, great job of putting out. We base a lot of our research on that. So we'd like to express our gratitude. And Charles, can we move to you?
Right. Well, I think that the real challenge remaining for us is to transform the output of our economy and the rate of growth. I think John certainly made the point that we've made progress on the fiscal and monetary side, or at least some aspects of that, very important aspects. But I sort of think of it a bit like riding a bicycle. If you are moving very slowly, it's difficult to keep your balance. And really what we want is that we want to maintain the hard-won gains of the last few years. And I think that having a faster rate of growth will certainly help in that respect. And so this is really why I think the whole issue of the export-led growth model is certainly worthy of some discussion.
I would throw to Dr. Lonkengwano, who has had some experience in other countries, and you referenced, Charles, an export-led growth model. Can you maybe tell us, Dr. Lonkengwano, is this model appropriate for Jamaica? And if so, what are maybe 2 prerequisites that you think would, and I'm sure there are many things that need to be in place, but if you would identify the 2 most impactful ones, what would you say they are?
Yeah, I think I will draw on a story to relate to that question. The Jamaican Manufacturer and Exporter Association, from time to time, they do this tour. So they visit one firm to look at their processes. It's a tour that I like to join because you have hands-on experience of what the firm goes through on a day-to-day basis. And during one of those tours 2 years ago, I won't name the firm, but it's a firm that is in business of spice, making spice, exporting to the US. So on the side, I asked the CFO, what is your most binding constraint? Is it the demand, that you don't have enough demand for your product? Or is it more supply in terms of running your operations? The answer was so striking. He said, no, the demand is there. The US market, I can barely scratch the surface. So the demand is not an issue because I'm looking outward. So I'm not looking about, I'm not looking at the 2.8 million people in Jamaica. I have a larger market and the demand is there. So I don't face any constraint on that side. I asked, okay, why don't you expand if the demand is there? And he said, interest rates are very high. But that was 2 years ago. I need to go and talk to him again.
Another talk.
To figure out, because BOJ has been busy cutting interest rates.
Yeah.
And just to find out what is the state of affairs now, but the sense is that access to finance was a big issue then, and I understand it's still an issue. Because of the, part of it is the business model of financial institutions, which were understandably used to running on government papers because government debt was very high. But now that the government is paying down the debt, banks are flush with cash, and the question is, how do you unleash that to finance private sector activity? So that's one constraint, I would say, access to finance to allow firms to expand beyond Jamaican borders, because as a firm, given also the digital revolution, your market is not confined to Jamaica. So that's one. The second thing, I asked him I kind of pushed him, what else? So he said, US consumer, he said, I'm using the word that he's used, are allergic to price increase. He said, basically, my price is, I can't dream of any price increase in the US market, which you will understand, right? Because inflation there is 1-2%. So there is no scope to increase your price. And what he told me was that the only margin that he has in terms of managing its cost increase and so on is the exchange rate. Because he get the same price in US. So for him to meet its costs, increased costs locally, which by the way includes security costs to fight crime, right? You need a lot of security officers. It's only if the exchange rate depreciates. Because when the exchange rate depreciates for him, bringing back those US dollars from his sales means a lot of Jamaican dollar that he can then pay people, pay the security stuff, and so on. So exchange rate, I don't want to say exchange rate policy because there is no really such thing as exchange rate policy, but your monetary policy framework is part of the equation. And as Sir John just mentioned, the bank is very busy trying to entrench a low, stable, and predictable environment. So I believe, inflation targeting is certainly the monetary policy framework that would kind of foster this type of export-led growth. So those are maybe two critical pillars: access to finance in terms of allowing those small businesses to innovate and reach wider market because they need to scale up. And then, the whole notion of monetary policy framework, having a framework that preserves what we call, economists call price competitiveness, because you have to be competitive at all times. If your local costs are high, you need your exchange rate to shelter you against that so you can remain competitive on external market, because that's how people choose where to buy from. They choose based on the cost.
Doggin Global Business Process Outsourcing. Doggin Global can help you with your day-to-day administrative and secretarial needs. We provide solutions for streamlining your accounting and bookkeeping procedures, so you can get on with running your business while knowing that all the accounting and statutory needs are being taken care of. Our BPO services include the following: bookkeeping, preparation of budgets, management accounts, and periodic financial analyses, provision of temporary or part-time accounting assistance, design and implementation of accounting systems, preparation of accounting manuals, payroll services, corporate secretarial services, assisting clients with their business entry strategy into the country, setting up new legal entities, maintaining minutes and other legal documents, non-executive directorships, preparing and submitting annual returns. For additional information, contact us at email info@doggin.global, website www.doggin.global.
Cameo brings the creative industries to life, highlighting creatives in different fields each week. Art.
My life turns art. I breathe, I eat art.
Fashion. Food.
Without a customer, we're nothing but four walls.
Music. Film. Cameo, only on Business Access TV.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Deputy Governor Robinson, I of course had an icebreaker, easier question for you at first, but after Dr. Lankengwana's point, I must ask you a few things. One is, are you happy with the rate of growth of credit to the private sector based on what you have been seeing? And I know that the central bank's remit has nothing to do with the actual systems through which the money gets lent, but do you think banks are doing enough?
Well, one of the effects that we expect from our cumulative relaxation of policy is an acceleration in the rate of growth of credit, not distinguishing at the origin between personal and business. But we believe that if banks expand credit broadly, then that is a mechanism through which domestic demand can pick up and growth can occur. We understand, we have seen a pickup in growth in credit over the past 2 years. We're running now at about 15% year over year, which is much faster than we have been accustomed to.
That's good to know.
We think there is scope for even faster expansion. Banks are liquid, there is demand, there is a shortage of other assets, and the return on very safe assets is very low. So there's a great incentive for banks to find good credits and to expand their book. We're not reckless about expansion at all costs. There is another side to this, which is about bubbles, about credit risk, about the search for yields which go beyond due care. And we cannot afford a repeat of some of the issues that we've faced in the past. So while we are promulgating a very accommodative monetary policy, we are mindful of the need to maintain credit quality and the need for a lot of that credit, where possible, to go towards business expansion. We don't direct credit. So who the banks choose to lend to depends on their assessment of projects, depends on growth sectors, prospects, and so on. But if there's a generalized response to very low, relatively low interest rates and an outlook for an accommodative monetary policy, this is one of the foundations on which we can spur faster domestic demand and growth. I just want to touch back on one of the points Constance made about the exchange rate. We've spent a lot of time correcting an overvalued exchange rate. Over the past 6 years or so, we have experienced a real depreciation of about 1.8% a year.
Wow.
Which has helped to correct a long period of overvaluation, which was measured at about the time the program started. This right sizing, right valuation of the real exchange rate is one of the foundations on which an export sector can grow. An overvalued exchange rate favors imports and acts as a disincentive for exporters to invest more in expanding their business. The person who is relying on the exchange rate to recover costs that he experiences locally, who then finds that there is a tendency towards overvaluation, cannot recover those costs that, as Dr. Longking says, is needed if you can't adjust your prices abroad. So a fairly valid exchange rate built on a flexible exchange rate system is one of the key pillars for favoring an export-led growth policy.
100%. I'm very glad you touched on that, Deputy Governor Robinson, and I'll give Charles an opportunity to, I know he has strong views on this, and there are also countries all over the world, to your point, that have employed similar strategies. Charles, I don't know if you want to touch on a few case studies.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could mention, several. beginning with, of course, Japan and Germany in the 60s, Singapore, South Korea in the 70s, China since then. But one of the things that I wanted to throw out to both Constant and John is that, that whole notion of the inflation differential, because it really is what how the markets ultimately adjust. And Constance's point about exporters being price takers, it really means that the extent to which our inflation rate is higher than that of our major trading partners like the US and so on, then you almost have to automatically expect that level of adjustment in the exchange rate on an annual basis, on average. I don't know how we condition the country to accept that. But, and of course, the other thing that we have to accept is that markets very often overshoot. If the inflation differential is 3%, it doesn't mean that there's going to be exactly a 3% adjustment. It may be 5, it may be 4, it may be 6, it may be 2. But, there has to be that adjustment in order to maintain the competitiveness. And I think the other thing we have to accept is that it's better for the rate to be a little undervalued, because that provides an extra incentive rather than overvalued and provide a disincentive and a penalty for exporters.
All of what you're saying, all three of you, seems to be very sound economic logic. But for some reason, the broad society has not generally, and of course, as reflected in the media, generally is not accepting of these principles. Are Jamaicans too obsessed with the exchange rate? Are we looking at the wrong metrics? And why? Why would that be the case?
Yeah, so maybe let me start where Charles left. The whole notion of inflation differential, that if you're running inflation higher than your trade partners, in order to maintain your competitiveness, your exchange rate will have to close the gap so that you can be, you don't come across as too costly. Right? So when you start from that point, it's very clear that eventually, so there are two components. There is a medium, what we call medium to long term, not day-to-day movement. So there are, so over the medium term, like on average per year, your depreciation will be the inflation differential. Let's take a very simple example. The Fed target 2% inflation, and the Bank of Jamaica target 5%. So if they all meet their target, the exchange rate will have to depreciate by 3% to close that gap. And that's over the medium term, not every day. Because what happens on a daily basis is that one day, you'll have a lot of people wanting US dollar for some reason, just timing of their imports, because they need the US to import, and less people supplying because there are maybe few tourists came that day or whatever. So at each point in time, you wouldn't expect that to hold. You wouldn't expect that inflation differential to be a daily thing, because even inflation numbers are released once a year, once a month. So, and those markets, in economics, there are always transitions where things overshoot, undershoot, but then eventually there is auto-correction. That's just how the mechanics works, right? So on a daily basis, if there are more people wanting the US dollar than people supplying the US dollar, the price of the US dollar will go up. It's a commodity like any other commodity. And if there are fewer people wanting the US dollar and more people supplying, well, the price of the US dollar will go down, which is an exchange rate appreciation. So you wouldn't expect on a day-to-day basis that the exchange rate will move with inflation differential. But eventually, market forces will take you to that level that is compatible with the inflation differential. And the Bank of Jamaica has been very busy making sure that the day-to-day movements are not subject to distortions. So it should be market-based in terms of making sure that market participants have the information flow. The market is very transparent. And I'm sure Surgeon will speak about the BFIXIT, the mechanism that they put in place to make sure that the market function well. Because what you want on the market any market is that demand and supply meet. And you don't stand in the middle of the demand and supply. And eventually the correction will take place, and you will expect the exchange rate to move with the inflation differential.
Thank you. And Governor Robinson?
Well, two things I would emphasize, as Constant just did, the importance of low inflation. We're building a whole infrastructure to entrench that, from the legislative changes through to our now world-famous communication efforts, our training, our modeling, our whole organizational structure is being modified to take us to full-fledged inflation targeting as an operating framework. What we want to assure Jamaicans is that we have the organizational ability to reliably deliver on our mandate. So we're being given a core mandate, deliver inflation according to the target that is set for you. Communicate what you see ahead. You will be free to adjust policy to meet that goal. But over time, we want everybody to hold you accountable for that outcome. And once that track record is established, then people will adjust their expectations accordingly. We will have entrenched low, stable, and predictable inflation, which is the one part of the equation which was being discussed, the inflation differential and expectations. Flexibility can be uncomfortable at times. If the rate doesn't move at all, then consumers feel happiest. They do. I mean, if you ask anybody who has to import a lot, you know, what worries you the most? And it's usually the fact that the exchange rate may move against me by the time I have to pay for the goods that I've imported. Having an environment where these changes become more flexible, more predictable, more firmly based on the policy intentions of the authorities, I think people will adopt and adapt their behavior accordingly. There will be no certainty on a given day what the exchange rate will be. But if inflation is managed reliably and predictably at a low level, then we can, over time, expect no more than a certain rate of adjustment, and we can build products that can hedge against those expectations. So building an environment of stable domestic prices, building a system of exchange of foreign currency that is transparent, that is market-based, and which increasingly will become more accessible by end users. And I'll talk a little bit later about the trading platform that we're putting in place. But these foundations, monetary stability and exchange rate flexibility, will lead to a maintenance of competitiveness, which then leads to a more promising environment for export growth and growth.
Great design is not only how things look, but also how well they work. The GLC, more than meets the eye.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this. No more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
The Good Life, your trusted source for useful health and wellness information, lifestyle tips for the mind, body, and soul. Tune in Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
In their recent Article 4 IMF report, they suggested that, maybe suggested is a strong word, but they outlined that, persistent unscheduled interventions in the FX market could have unintended consequences, so to speak. And my question to you is, does the Bank of Jamaica intend to continue to use the flash sale mechanism in the future, or will we be, as we get better at predicting the demand and supply, will BFIXit be used more regularly?
Well, BFIXit is a kind of halfway house. It's a step towards an eventual system of fairly free trading among dealers with end users on an electronic platform.
Okay.
What we've tried to introduce in this midway stage is to accustom dealers to help discover what the prices are in the market through competitive bidding for amounts that we sell during periods of shortages. We have had instances or episodes where we've been buying, but that has those left a sour aftertaste in the minds of market players because they thought we were buying at too high a rate. But BFIXit was meant to give notice and to sell into the market based on information supplied by dealers. So if they say at the end of June we see 20 million globally, then we will give notice that we will sell all or some of that into the market around that time. And that gave the assurance that dealers could fill orders from positions, knowing that additional liquidity will come to the market then. It has led to an expectation of smoothing, which I think is not the intention of our liquidity injections. The market has matured some more, and it will mature further as we move to more electronic trading. Currently, the market is testing a platform produced by Bloomberg, which allows them to view quotes among themselves, not to consummate trades online, but enough discovery among the players so that any dealer, yourself, can look online and see what every other dealer is selling and what amounts. We hope by the first quarter of next year to introduce our own platform, custom built for Jamaica, where players, dealers, can look at quotes, strike deals, and settle seamlessly through the BOJ accounts. So BFIX, it was just a kind of halfway house. And we do subscribe to the recommendation that we not intervene too frequently or too heavily unless it's really disorderly. We have enough reserves, so we're not buying aggressively, and we're not seeking to support a particular exchange rate. So we intervene during periods of disorder, and those have become fewer.
Right.
There's more tolerance for flexibility. So there's less of a panic now when the rate moves by, 10, 20 cents, $1. That never used to be the case. So there's growing tolerance for flexibility. There is growing dependence on price discovery across the market. And soon there will be more seamless trading in a more modern environment.
The Bank of Jamaica governor, who has so far conducted the arrangements made by the IMF, as it were. How long is it the program will exist? And if so, why is it that the Bank of Jamaica is not encouraged to continue to finalize that project? That's a question to you and the IMF.
Can I clarify, seek some clarification?
Yes?
You're saying that...
It's not political.
I would have spotted it. No, but you seem to be unclear whether the program of reforms will continue after the IMF exits its financial relationship.
I'm not saying that. I'm just asking whether you have a program, a period for that program. Things have worked so well that the IMF, in fact, has said, congratulate the Bank of Jamaica for supporting the program. I'm asking what period, what is left of the program, and why wouldn't it be that the IMF would encourage the Bank of Jamaica governor to continue for that period to ensure that all that were planned have been effected?
Well,
the question.
The program that we're under, the precautionary standby arrangement, is virtually over.
Oh, it is?
Yes. There were no drawings under this program. The commitments were precautionary. If there had been a problem, a shock, we would have been eligible to draw down funds which IMF pre-committed. That wasn't necessary. We continued a program of reforms, and the performance under this last 2-3 years has been exemplary. We are institutionalizing those reforms on the fiscal side, on the monetary side, on the structural transformations, so that whether or not there is a financial backstop available on demand, we would have put in place sufficient procedures, institutional arrangements to continue these reforms into the future. So I don't think you're referring particularly to any one person as necessary.
No, there can be one person.
Right.
But there's a head.
But there is a set of arrangements which are sustainable. And I think this transition is just an example of how well things can work without external support.
So maybe very quickly, 2 quick points on that. Number one, I like it to be called what it is. It's the government of Jamaica's economic reform program. It's not an IMF program. We're just tagging along. These are sacrifices of the Jamaican people. This success is for the Jamaican, it has been on the back of hard sacrifice by the Jamaican people. So the credit goes to the Jamaica, so the Jamaicans. It's not an IMF program, it's an IMF-supported program. And this is one of the reasons why the program has been so successful, because the program has been owned by the Jamaican successive administration. It has been owned by the Jamaican people. That's one. Number two, we like to think about these reform as institutions driving them, not individuals. I mean, individuals are part of the institutions, but you don't want a system, you want a system where there is continuity. And one of the other reasons why the reform program has been so successful in Jamaica, and we haven't seen it in many places around the world, is that you had a change in administration, and the reform program, the broad parameter of the reform program remain unchanged. So there is the so-called policy continuity, which is so critical for investors, because one of the key elements that investors will be looking at is policy certainty. How much you can project yourself 5, 10 years down the road. It's not when you're investing today, it's not a 1 year, 2 year return you're looking at. You're looking at medium to long term. So we believe this is, the institutional platform is there to support any kinds of transition.
As a teacher for over 8 years, we need to realize that the children are our future. We need to love them, appreciate and respect our children. No more violence against children. No more!
We are serious about the business of real estate, so catch Home Sweet Home Sundays at 4:30 p.m. or if you missed it, check our website at batvja.com.
We've heard so much from the Sterling Asset Management Investor Briefing, certainly the perspectives of the IMF Chief Representative, along with Charles Ross and the BOJ Governor. Charles joins us now to go into a little bit more into something that you said earlier about us having the real challenge of transforming output, which is, of course, a key part of creating faster economic growth. How close are we to getting that right?
Well, Elon, that is absolutely the multi-million-dollar question. And the reason that we had this theme this evening was really to explore that. Because at the end of the day, economic growth is what's going to lift our standard of living, is what's going to make everybody better off, is what's going to provide the resources for vital social services, infrastructure, etc. And unfortunately, we've made great progress in bringing down our debt and improving the fiscal balance, bringing down inflation, but we haven't been able to significantly increase economic growth. And so that really was the central theme of this evening's discussion.
So, for our viewers watching right now and saying, look, I want to get into exports, because that was essentially the theme of this evening's presentation, where are the green shoots? Where are the opportunities? Point us.
Well, that's again another multi-million-dollar question. But as John Robinson mentioned, there has been a bit of a real adjustment in the exchange rate over the last few years, and that has provided some incentive for export-led investment. And we are seeing manufacturers in the food processing, agri-processing, agriculture, in that area, we are seeing some interest and some increases in export activity. However, as one of the people who asked questions in the Q&A pointed out, the volatility in the exchange rate, the movements up and down, which has recently become a feature of the foreign exchange market, that poses certain challenges for the exporters, because the 7% movement means the difference between profit and loss. So there's still issues, but I think that with the right signals from macroeconomic policy, the right sort of pricing, if you like, of the exchange rate, that will provide a significant boost to export activity.
Where this problem obtains in other parts of the world, has there been any kind of sector-led intervention to assist exporters? I'm talking now about finance houses like yourself coming up with products that could hopefully hedge against that eventuality for exporters.
Well, I tell you, one of the challenges with hedging is that you need to have the unimpeded, if you like, impact of market forces. And one of the challenges that we have is that we still have interventions by the central bank. So that really it's going to be very difficult to develop the sort of hedging mechanisms when you have periodic interventions by the central bank which have a major impact on movements in the exchange rate. And so you're not able to use the mathematical models which are inherent in these hedging instruments, because you're not really having the full impact of market forces. And you do have these periodic interventions which almost present discontinuities in the data and the data sets. And that therefore makes it very difficult to price the hedging instruments that you'd find in developed markets, or markets where there is less intervention and a more free interplay of market forces. So that's one of the challenges that we have. Really, we need to develop more of a pure market in terms of the foreign exchange market, so that institutions can develop these hedging mechanisms, I guess, without taking undue risk.
Much of what you heard earlier when it comes on to the discourse at the 2019 Sterling Asset Management Investor Briefing focused on the Bank of Jamaica's role in inflation targeting and how it has been managing the issue of the interest rates as well as the foreign exchange rate, primarily the Jamaican dollar versus the US dollar. I have with me the Senior Deputy Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, John Robinson. And you acquitted of yourself very well there earlier when the volley of questions came to you about the BOJ's policy. The BOJ's policy, though, is one that you have advertised, is one that you have tried to socialize the Jamaican public and indeed the world. It was picked up by an overseas network as to your marketing campaign around what I like to describe as monetary knowledge. How has the campaign been going and what's the reaction been like?
Well, it has been phenomenal. The coverage we have got, I've never seen any central bank get that kind of coverage on advertising their mandates. What we've set out to do is to make Jamaica, firstly Jamaica, aware of what our mandate is. What do we care about? What do we want to do for them? And we want them to know about inflation. We want them to know that we are focused on keeping inflation low and stable, and that we are organizing ourselves to maintain that for a long time to come. A lot of people, even the word inflation may be new to them. So it has been a big campaign to teach people what inflation is, why they should care about it, how we go about controlling it, and what it will do for their way of life. We've used music, and that has taken off. We've used drama. We've done seminars. We're doing every possible outlet to get the message across. Soon you'll see billboards, you'll see video, you'll see more. But we want everybody to be aware of what BOJ does, what it cares about, and what it means for them.
And as people become aware of that, what's the call to action then? They now know. What do they do as a result of having that knowledge?
Once they understand that inflation, their experience with prices going forward is something they can predict, then it leads into how they negotiate wages, what they think of as being a good price for a future product. And it allows them to plan their lives a lot better. So it's about predictable prices, and which are low enough not to hurt them in their way of standard of living.
We consider our next guest an honorary Jamaican. He's the IMF's country representative, Dr. Constant Longken Nguana. Welcome. And I say that to you because you have been all over talking about this economic program that's in tandem with the Jamaican government. And it's a partnership that has clearly worked well. Your short review of where we are, of course, we're in the evening of the agreement, but how has it turned out?
I'm happy to be associated with such a successful turnaround. I think it's fair to say that the Jamaicans have really turned the economy around, and you can look across the board what macroeconomists tend to look at in terms of indicator of success. Look at macroeconomic stability being entrenched, public debt going from 147% in 2013 to now about 95%. Amazing. And this is without handout from anyone. This is really the Jamaicans taking the decision to put their fiscal house in order. So a lot of policy commitment from successive administration. So policy continuity is something that is highly valued by investors and by consumers. A lot of maturity in the economy. What we would like to see some more, and that's what the government and the people of Jamaica are working on, to get some more growth. But we should not also dismiss the fact that the Jamaican economy has grown for 16 consecutive quarters, which is not something that you've seen a lot in the past. And also over the past quarters, you will have seen grow around 2%, which is almost unprecedented in Jamaica. So, there is a lot of positive, a lot more to do, especially on the growth side. And we're very upbeat about what we see on the ground.
You've just seen some truly thought-provoking insight, analyses, and a commentary from the 2019 Sterling Asset Management Investor Briefing. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Elon Parkinson for Business Access TV, serious about business.
I wanted to be an educator because I believe that education is the most powerful weapon that can change the world.
My dreams and aspiration is to one day become an entrepreneur where I can employ other persons and help to build the country.
I wanted to go into development. I wanted to help people become better versions of themselves. Growing up, I saw a lot of violence, I saw a lot of crime, I saw a lot of poverty. The challenges are so many. The first one that comes to mind is the level of youth unemployment that's here.
Challenges that exist here in West Prospect Bogwalk are lack of awareness for educational opportunities or job opportunities.
Not many got a chance to do CXC or graduate from the secondary level. So that's a major setback for the people living in the community.
A way to alleviate this issue is training programs.
They need more opportunities, like to go back to school to get themselves a certificate so they can be able to work and create employment for themselves and their family.
Push more entrepreneurship opportunity, encourage these youths to be creative and innovative in what they do. Give them startup capital to start their business. Invest more in the youth skills and talents.
The Poverty Reduction Program is funded by the European Union, and it really is a program that focuses on the most vulnerable type of communities, making communities safer, making citizens more healthy, better access to education.
For European Union, investing in youth is an obvious choice. They are the future of the country. If we prepare them well, they will bring the change that Jamaica needs. That's why we invest in scholarships, internship, training in life skills and mentorship.
I received a tertiary scholarship from PRP to attend the University of Technology, Jamaica. It meant a lot to me because I realized that somebody else believed in me and somebody saw the potential that I have and somebody believed that I could actually achieve my goal.
I benefited by getting firstly an internship, and also they assisted my bachelor's degree financially. But critically, outside of the finances, the persons that were on the project, you know, the motivation that they provided, etc., it really provided a huge boost.
This is my third year at the MICO. This scholarship, it helped me to be able to focus only on my education here, because tertiary education is not cheap.
I was placed at ODPEM on the one-year internship program. It was really good. It was an opportunity for me to prove myself, to give myself of service, and also to gain experience in the working world, and to also provide for my family.
I plan to be an agent of change in my community by being a mentor, a leader, and a godfather for the youths growing up. Try to help them teach them a trade. You don't have to be rich to help. You don't have to achieve greatness to start. I contributed to my basic school by providing them with the necessary resources that they need, that I believe that in the long run, it will have a ripple effect on many, many persons.
Professionally, I manage the Hope program, which is aimed at giving young persons the opportunity to, you know, do what I did, basically, to get their foot inside an organization. Additionally, I also have a little small business that I try to employ young persons to learn a skill, etc.
When you're persistent in life, when you're determined, when you're hungry for success, then you'll be able to accomplish and achieve anything that you want.
It has changed hundreds and hundreds of lives. Not just my life, my family lives, my friends' lives, etc. I want to just urge everyone looking on to continue these social programs. These are the solutions to the many ills that we face as a society and as a country and even as a world. So thank you, and I challenge you, continue it. It's needed.
Ready for cable
for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Our women are the backbone of our society. They deserve to be protected and respected. Domestic violence is not okay. Speak up and speak out. No more violence against women.
Just as society has evolved over time, our food system has also evolved into a global system of immense size and complexity. Today, food scientists have assisted in supplying a wide range of scientific knowledge to maintain better food safety, high food quality, high food content, and contributing to healthier people everywhere. This week, we explore the field of food science on Career Moves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andre Gordon, Managing Director of Technological Solutions Limited and a food scientist. Food science is a multidisciplinary science that deals with everything that has to do with the production, preparation, and delivery of food, all kinds of food, from seafoods, agricultural items, processed foods, beverages, alcoholic drinks, everything. So food science is really the aggregation of all of those areas that has allowed mankind to be able to produce and deliver food to feed the world. Safe and high quality food. Well, because of the wide range of areas, food science is basically structured into food chemistry, food microbiology, food engineering or food processing, sensory sciences, that is how do you measure foods, and nutrition falls under food science. There's an area of nutrition that falls under food science as well. But essentially, what a food scientist does depends on which area they have chosen to specialize in. At Technological Solutions Limited, actually, we cover all of the areas. And having come from a developing country and having seen the challenges that we had, I probably chose the unique option of covering a wide variety of the areas. Typically in our business, food scientists choose one particular area and specialize. Now, when you talk about food science, it really is split into food technology and food science. A food technologist is somebody who has studied the area of food science, probably up to the level of getting a first degree and being a practitioner working in the industry. That is a food technologist. A food scientist, like any other scientist, is somebody who would have gone on to graduate studies in either a master's or a PhD. In my case, I have 3 degrees, a first degree, a master's, and a PhD. My PhD is what is in food science with, at the time, a focus on food processing. So it covers all areas of processing. My undergraduate degree was 3 years. My master's I did in 2 years, 2.5 years, and I was fortunate at the time to finish my PhD in 3 years. Graduated with distinction from the University of Guelph By the time I was finished and everything was wrapped up, I think we did 12 publications from my PhD work. Throughout our entire food industry, you have persons, if we look at baking, there are food scientists who work in the baking industry, but there are those who specialize in baking technology. So they look at how do I get the best out of a baking process. There are those who specialize in product development, those who specialize in food chemistry, so they just work in the chemistry area, those who specialize in microbiology. There are some that specialize in nutrition, and all of this we're just talking about baking. Now the person who has a specialty in baking may not be able to transfer that necessarily to a brewing industry, like a Red Stripe or a distillery like a Ray & Nephew, because those require different sets of knowledge, different sets of skills. And this is where a food scientist or an experienced technologist should be able to learn new things and move across industries. In North America, that tends not to be the case. If you're in baking, you stay in baking for all your life. That's how it works. If you're in the brewing or distilling, most people stay like that. Now you're seeing some cross-industry movement, but these tend to be at the scientist level or very experienced technologists who may specialize, for example, in product development. One area is sensory measurement. That is, how do you take a consumer's demand or consumer's need, translate that into technical terms, make that into a product that is going to be successful, which is a very, very difficult thing to do. Something we have done exceptionally well over the years we've been in business. I have a lot of things that I have to do as regards my company's business, which are strictly business oriented, finance, making sure that we have proper planning in place, all of the things that you do when you have to run a company. Some nitty-gritty things like making sure all the bills are paid, that you collect the money, that you create products that your clients want, that you try to keep them updated with what is happening. One of the things that we at TSL are well known for is being at the cutting edge of what is happening in the industry. We have a lot of associates and colleagues overseas. We stay up to date with what is happening and tend to know in advance of trends. We've always been market leaders, which is a benefit, but sometimes it creates tensions because a lot of the things you are saying and advising people to do, nobody else in the rest of the Caribbean even knows about, and or in Jamaica. And so often you appear to be conflicting with what people are saying locally. You're saying that is not the way to go, that is today and yesterday, but tomorrow they're going to be asking you to do something else. So don't focus on today and yesterday, prepare for tomorrow. This is what we have been doing.
Audits play a key role in verifying proper food safety practices in the food industry. Dr. Gordon weighs in.
We haven't even spoken about auditing. Auditing is an entire area of the food industry, just like financial auditing, where there are myriad different kinds of audits that require different kinds of training. Specialized in, for example, food service audits, or looking at a process audit. How efficient is this process? Looking at a food safety audit or a quality systems audit. And this is just auditing, right? So just in the quality assurance area or the food safety area, there are a myriad of jobs, and this is an exploding area today. The best food scientists really know what they're talking about, and also know what they don't know, and don't hesitate to say, that's not my area of expertise, I don't know.
Internal audit. Internal audit service is vital when organizations aim to achieve reliable financial reports and regulatory compliance, navigating risks, streamlining operations, and promoting stakeholder confidence. The benefits of a high-quality internal audit are limitless, especially when you secure yours from a firm with deep industry experience, exposure to hundreds of organizations, dedicated professionals, and proven methodologies. Whether you're looking to establish an internal audit function, attain or maintain compliance with various regulations, mitigate your risk of fraud, or gain an overall assessment of your internal controls, you can count on Dodgen Global for reliable and timely business solutions. We've helped organizations nationwide and across industries to establish internal control structures, create an internal audit function, or improve an existing one, and maintain regulatory compliance. We provide ongoing education as regulations and public perceptions change. We are trusted advisors for management and boards. External auditors can be confident in our work and its results. Let Dodgen Global be a turnkey solution for your organization. Our team can help you make smarter, more effective decisions. Let's have a conversation. Contact us at email info@dodgen.global. Website https://dodgen.global.
Business current affairs you can relate to. Frank, credible discussion. On point, dissecting the issues. Offering solutions to Jamaica's challenges. On Point, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Food scientist, I don't think I would cause. I don't know much about it. And as far as tasting go, me eat a patty and the next man say, boy, the patty salt, or the patty fresh, or the patty what have you. I just taste like a normal patty to me.
Yeah, because it would have been great, you know, for Rasta and for Jamaica and for the world, you know. Yeah, so I would definitely consider that, you know.
I didn't do the sciences in school. I'm a business person. I don't know what these food sciences people do, and I'm not about it.
Not many persons you see venturing in that area. To me, it's just boring. The government can hardly find pretty much funds to pay people for popular careers, much as food scientists. So no, I wouldn't venture in that area though.
Well, personally, no. I like what I do right now, but if other persons find, I mean, everybody has their own calling.
I want to be a scientist, but this one's so special to me that I would like to put this in my thought.
I'd probably consider being a food scientist, yes, because I love food. I like to play around with food, so yeah. And I mean, I hear there's a lot of money in it, so definitely.
A career of a food scientist? No, because I don't really know anything about it, honestly. That's my point.
Feeding a global population can sometimes create challenges, especially with added factors.
We're having challenges with global warming, so one of the most critical things is going to be food supply. Not just adequacy of food supply, which is a major challenge that is faced in several developing countries in Asia, in areas of sub-Saharan Africa and elsewhere, but even within developed countries, you have lots of areas where people have issues with food. In Jamaica and the Caribbean, we have serious issues with the percentage of what is produced that actually ends up being consumable. We've had high, what they call post-harvest losses for many years. That really is what drove me into the area of food science. I came to food science through microbiology, to use scientific knowledge from multiple areas to solve problems.
Not many people even like to hear the word science, but Dr. Gordon was quite passionate about pursuing the sciences.
I liked science. First, I wanted to do medicine, like many people. It's probably a little bit different now because there are more options and there are lots of other. But I wanted to do medicine. I was fascinated with that. So I chose a course that would take me there. When I was doing my first degree I did at University of the West Indies, majoring in biochemistry with a minor. I was one of the first group of students to do what was called then Elements of Food Chemistry was the program. So that was the first food-based program that University of the West Indies offered. Having started on that program, I realized the potential between that and biochemistry to address many of the issues that we had, funnily enough at the time, with trade trying to export into markets and trying to deal with issues of having a lot of losses in the agricultural sector, develop new products and that kind of thing. Those challenges remain today, unfortunately. But that was what really drove me to look at that area. And then by second year or so, I did a couple projects and I realized that I really liked this thing and decided medicine wouldn't be it for me. I wanted to become a food scientist. They had no programs available in the Caribbean. So I chose to do a master's instead, focusing on food microbiology in the area of biochemistry. And during that program, did groundbreaking work. My supervisor at the time is Professor Ahmad, who is now, I think, retired from the university. Had just come to Jamaica. He had no horizon set for him. There was no limitation. And so we were able to do a lot of things that people would say you can't do in developing countries. We started doing work with plasmid isolation, that's isolating the genetic material from bacteria, even before they started in many places in the US and Canada, because he had just come from somewhere where this was being done. So we started doing this in Jamaica and published work on it from in the mid-80s. People are not aware of this. So from that time, I got introduced to really high-level science. But I realized that microbiology alone wouldn't address the issues. I was getting involved in discussions with trade and agriculture and realized that we needed to be able to pull all the skills together to be able to produce the foods that we wanted to feed ourselves and also be able to export. Because it was clear that unless we were able to export, we wouldn't be able to earn our way. This was in the early 80s. At that time, I became aware that Ackes had been banned from the US market. I can be very specific, 1983, I found out about this and thought it would be really useful to Jamaica if I could make a contribution in solving that problem. So I started a master's program, completed it in microbiology, and during that period applied to several universities, including Cornell, that accepted me, and the University of Guelph in Canada. I applied for a Canadian Commonwealth Scholarship. Truth is, I applied to Cornell, was accepted, and I couldn't go because I wasn't able, the scholarship, I was able to get a scholarship, but it wasn't able to cover the full cost. The Canadians offered me a scholarship, full scholarship, a Commonwealth scholarship to the University of Guelph or McGill. I chose to go to Guelph, and that's how I ended up doing a PhD at the University of Guelph in food sciences. Turned out to be quite an interesting decision because Guelph is, at the time, they were an up-and-coming, very good university. Now they're one of the top universities in food science, and a lot of the people that made it that way were coming at the time I was there. So we had cutting-edge information right across the spectrum, and I was able not just to focus on processing, which was my main area, but on all of the other areas: nutrition, engineering, processing, chemistry, microbiology, all of the platform areas, sensory measurement. I think I did I was required to do 4 courses. I think I did somewhere about 14 or 16 courses just to make sure, and then short courses in dairy production, in fruit and vegetable processing, meat processing, and so on. So that wide exposure and practical application helped to allow me to create what is today Technological Solutions Limited. Before then, though, I had already developed a product that was actually sold, exported to the Cayman Islands, I understand, by Jamaica Broilers, a pepper shrimp product. This was 1984, I think. And I had been working with Grace Kennedy in their meat plant before I went to do the PhD, because I went to work having finished my master's before going on to the PhD. So I had been working in product development, so I had a very good idea of what was required, and that is important because the practical knowledge helps you to better define what is going to be useful going forward, as against just going straight from school, doing all of the degrees, for which there's a benefit, but quite often you don't understand what is actually required in the working world until you come out.
In pursuit of being the best at anything, there are certain skills that are needed, and we hear from Dr. Gordon the ones required for a food scientist.
Critical amongst all of this is dedication to, lawyers talk about dedication to your craft, and the really good lawyers, you can see, really do the research and prepare. Same is required of a doctor. The food scientist is no different. The best food scientists, really know what they're talking about and also know what they don't know, and don't hesitate to say, that's not my area of expertise, I don't know. I may be able to recommend people who can give you that information. This is very important, because one of the challenges we've had throughout the Caribbean and in science in general is that people think from you're a scientist you know everything. Once you name doctor or you have a PhD, you know everything. That is far from the truth. There are many people with PhDs who have worked hard for their PhDs and they have it. But, it doesn't mean that they know everything. And so what we have to be careful of is we don't become what you call, they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. This is something we say all the time. We need to make sure that when we say something, we have done the research and it is factual. So the major characteristic is the the willingness to work hard, the willingness to be true to knowledge, to research, and be able to think creatively. And also understand that this is not ivory tower science. This is science that has an application. It's going to help somebody to do something. It's a very high demand area. The demographics have changed significantly. When I studied, most of the persons doing this would have come from the developed countries. Now a large number of persons, immigrants and others from developing countries, are the people you see.
They say it takes a village to raise a child, but the world will one day need the leadership of that child. The time you spend with your child matters. It stimulates their minds and shapes the way they act. Talk with your children. Help them to better understand the world around them and to value what is truly precious. Above all, the most valuable gift you can give them is love. Play, talk, teach, love. Take the time. It makes all the difference. A message from the Parenting Helpline and Ad Council Jamaica.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
In Jamaica, there is still a gap to be filled in our universities if one wants to become a food scientist, as most courses needed aren't offered.
So the University of the West Indies in particular has responded and is trying to offer some of the programs. The truth of the matter is, though, that they have had to bring people in from overseas to help lecture on that program, largely because the skills are so specialized and we don't have the people here. So if you're going to address a lot of those gaps, most likely you're going to have to go overseas to get the knowledge at the master's and the PhD level, which you need if you're really going to make a difference, in the future. It is an area in which, particularly in the United States, Canada, the European Union, and the developed countries, they actually can't get enough graduates. It's a very high demand area. The demographics have changed significantly. When I studied, Most of the persons doing this would have come from the developed countries. Now a large number of persons, immigrants and others from developing countries, are the people you see. Lots of people from Latin America, lots of people from Asia are amongst the both now professors and the attendees. So job security, particularly in North America, is good. Even in the Caribbean, I expect in the next 5 to 10 years, even as we speak now, there are companies looking for persons with the expertise.
If you're considering a change in career or looking to study food science, you may just be at an advantage.
Absolutely, there is a market. We need more people with more specialized skills. Remember, I mentioned the specialized areas. We don't have enough microbiologists. We don't have very many food engineers. We don't have very many people who specialize in the immunological side of food. We don't have very many people who specialize in food chemistry, in enzymology, plant diseases, diseases caused by insects. We do have people, but not enough. And in many cases, they're not out there working in an applied setting, right? Certainly not in the private sector. And where you're going is, if you're going to set up a big operation, you need those skills. So either you're going to bring them in from overseas, or somebody here is going to be able to offer them. Job outlook is very good. It varies. A food scientist, I suppose, entry level in the US, I can talk about the US, probably earn somewhere between 40 to 50,000 US dollars, which is, if you know the US salary scales, that's that's fairly significant. A food scientist with 5 years experience would probably be earning somewhere around 70, 80,000 US to, depending on what they're doing, 100, somewhere there, it depends. Food scientists at the top of the scale earn 200,000, 180, 200, 250,000 as vice president of research or whatever it is. So it's food scientists at the top of their business make more money than doctors in the US, on average, the average doctor. It's a very high skilled area with high demand. So it is a good profession to look at if you're looking to work overseas. Unfortunately, in the Caribbean, we don't value the skills the same.
Dr. Gordon leaves us with some tips on getting ahead in the field.
You have to be dedicated. You have to be dedicated. You have to be willing to work really hard. So if you do it right, within 5 to 7 years, you can be very successful. But you have to be willing to work hard. You have to be dedicated to excellence. You have to understand what you know and what you don't know and be honest about it. And you have to deliver, consistently deliver at the highest level. If you're willing to do that, you can be extremely successful in this field because the demand is there.
Every day you wake up, you have another opportunity to make this little island better, safer, a place where we all can be proud to call home. It's time we all recognize that every little thing we do has an impact on the Jamaica we live in now and the country we're leaving for our children. So promise me this, promise yourself this: no more will we tolerate criminals, even if it's our relatives. Tell them they're doing something wrong. Tell them to stop. Tell them no more robbing our children of the Jamaica they deserve. Tell them no more crime.
Caring Hands Season 3 continues to effect change in a changing environment.
Many of us were raised by grandmothers, right? So, I mean, we know the wisdom that these people have.
Going beyond business.
The little leaders of today are our leaders of tomorrow. And with the proper education, we'll have very good leadership coming from that.
That's Season 3 of Caring Hands, creating change and shaping lives, every Sunday at 5:30 p.m. on Business Access TV.
The Dental Place Cosmetic Spa to talk to Dr. Robinson about oral piercings and the growing trend of fashionable braces. Dr. Robinson, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So talk to us about the Dental Place Cosmetic Spa. How did you get started?
I graduated the University of Virginia 12 years ago. My practice started in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 10 years ago. I decided to expand that practice in this facility, so we've been here for about 2 years. I'm also an adjunct lecturer at the University of Technology. We graduated our first set of dentists here on this island last year, so we're excited about that. So being here at the office, I have an opportunity to introduce to my patients what I do cosmetically in Florida here. So I'm really excited that you invited me to speak to you about oral piercings, and especially the new trend in fashion braces, which are clearly not cosmetic.
All right, so you don't do piercings here,
No.
but I'm sure you have a whole heap of knowledge on piercings.
Yes, I do. I can speak on the impact of oral piercings on your oral health, but it's not something that we advocate or encourage.
Why shouldn't I get an oral piercing? I mean, everyone has them. It seems fashionable. Why not?
My job is to educate you on the impact on your overall health. The decision you make is purely yours. Oral piercings are, it's a body art, you know. It's an expression of one's individuality. Understandably so, it goes back to centuries, you know, where you find preserved bodies with oral piercings. It was a sign of ownership during times of slavery. So oral piercing has gone back for centuries. I don't see it going anywhere. Persons will continue to do it. However, without a basis, most of the persons that I speak to, it's done more because it's an expression of who they are, as opposed to just doing it because it's cool. Patients who are wearing tongue bars or persons that I know with it, they speak of increased sexual pleasures. To each his own, and it's a personal thing for them. So that's as much as I can say about that outside of an individual expressing themselves through body art. What we find with oral piercings is amongst younger persons, it is seen as a harmless way to express themselves. It's not seen as permanent as a tattoo or piercing of the ear. because inside the mouth, especially the tongue, it is so highly vascularized. The minute you remove the tongue bar, it heals. So they see it as a way to get a piercing, mommy and daddy won't know about it, or my employer doesn't know about it. It's not even an issue of, in the workplace, it being known. It impedes your speech, it affects swallowing, and there are a range of risk factors that goes with having oral drawers in your mouth. And those would be, for example, at the time when the piercing is done, the concern is for prolonged bleeding, obviously because your mouth is highly vascularized, meaning there are lots of blood vessels in that area. Infections, pain, and swelling. So once you're healed, there's still concern, right? Concerns would be cracking your teeth. The tongue actually seems to be the most common place for oral piercings, and second to that would be the lips. So here's fracturing of the teeth, receding gums, buildup of plaques in the mouth, and we know that the buildup of plaques will lead to gums being infected, which leads to bone loss, and which leads to loss of teeth. Persons who are doing this, youthful persons, are not aware of the risk factors. So I find it important to communicate what I can on risk and educate. I don't think that we are as informed as a public as to the consequences to some of these decisions that we are making. And so the tendency is to do it for fashion, and dentistry by itself is very costly. I know that because I have patients who struggle to do basic stuff, such as regular cleanings and fillings. So it disturbs me when out of fashion you do piercings and then you end up down a road or path where you lose your teeth, and it's depressing.
When we return, we delve a little more into the effects of oral piercing. And still to come, what are fashion braces?
It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test. It's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, it's Island Hour, free eye test.
Free eye testing is back and it's here to stay. Island Eyewear offers free eye testing every day, all day at all locations island-wide. Conditions apply. Make your appointment today at www.islandeyewear.com or call us 630-1180. Island Eyewear, your style, your price.
It's Island Hour, free eye test.
It's season 12, and Wealth Magazine Business Access is here to keep you business savvy. With an impressive mix of some of Jamaica's most inspiring business moguls, we continue to keep Jamaica informed, empowered, and ready to dominate. Tune in Sundays at 5 p.m. only on BATV.
You're watching
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access. Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Ready for cable for as little as $100? Ready for no monthly cable bill? Ready for 10 TV channels absolutely free? Then pick up our Ready TV box at authorized stores for $4,500. Hook it up to your TV set, then top it up with Ready Credit for 1, 7, or 30 days. Buy now and get $1,000 free Ready Credit and start watching your favorite shows. Pick it up, hook it up, top it up. Ready TV. Prepaid cable TV when you're ready. Now serving Kingston and St. Catherine. Limited time offer while stocks last. Conditions apply.
Welcome back to The Good Life. This week we are discussing the effects of oral piercings and fashion braces with Dr. Sharon Robinson from the Dental Place Cosmetic Spa.
So you've mentioned tongue piercings and lip piercings, but I know a lot of people are getting their cheeks pierced. Are these considered oral piercings, and are they as harmful as a tongue piercing or a lip piercing?
Yes, cheek piercing is also considered oral piercing because it extends from the inside of the mouth to the outside. It does carry equal risks as the tongue ring or bar and the lip jewelry.
Dr. Robinson says most persons only focus on the look of piercings after it is done. However, she emphasizes a major precaution that should help persons to at least stop and make the best decision.
Basically, from the onset, walking into a facility that's not regulated, we don't know how the instruments being used are being sterilized, if at all. So there are concerns for cross-contamination. The National Institute of Health has identified oral piercings as a risk factor in transmitting some hepatitis viruses. There is the concern for endocarditis. Contaminated instruments or health concerns that you would have could create a situation where bacteria in your mouth now has the opportunity to enter your bloodstream. Once it's there, these bacteria can attach themselves to heart vessels. That's called endocarditis, and that can be a very serious complication. There is just too much, when a patient comes in to see the dentist, we go through a medical history for a reason. We don't know that these things are being done in these facilities because there are patients who'd say they're diabetic or they have some underlying medical problems that are not shared, and the persons who are doing the piercings are not trained to handle that. So in terms of maintenance, there's no maintenance once you've had your piercing. There's no follow-up. So you still have to get your dentist to help to manage what's happening.
I know you don't advocate getting oral piercings, but let's just say I'm all about that life and I'm gonna get one. What advice are you gonna give those people that are still gonna go out and get an oral piercing? What are some things that I need to keep in mind?
Get with your dentist, get with the dental hygienist, stay on top of your checkups. You will be informed on the safety precautions that should be in place. You will receive the professional help that you need for your oral care, for hygiene. And it's very important to minimize the consequences and the risk factors that are there. So if you already have it, hey, that's fine. We're here. Do not stay away. Let us help you to manage that. I can't speak of what's going on in these facilities, if the things are being cleaned or not. And there's just too much. I have a lot of respect for things that I cannot see, bacteria and viruses. So it's so important for me to inform the public that they have a responsibility for their own health, and the choices that they make will have consequences. If they're not properly informed, there will be dire consequences and more costly as well.
Let's say I put in a tongue ring and it chips a tooth and I have to come in and get that repaired. How much money am I looking at for that?
That's a good question. First, we have to, how big a chip is it? It could go from just a filling to having a root canal and a crown. So if it's a small chip, we may be able to just fill the tooth to restore it. If it's a huge chip, which has now involved the canal, we have to remove the nerves, which is a root canal, and we have to restore the tooth with a crown. That gets very costly. So there it is, an inexpensive, fashionable decision to a decision here. From the top of my head, you'd be looking at about $180,000 to replace or to restore that on the high scale if you're doing a root canal and a crown. Filling anywhere from about $8,000 to $20,000 Jamaican dollars.
Underlying problems without symptoms is usually the reason most oral piercing infections get out of control. Dr. Robinson re-emphasizes the importance of consulting with a dentist.
The mouth, in its healthiest form, is loaded with bacteria. In its healthiest form. So imagine in a case where you're not getting the regular maintenance that you need. For persons who have lots of cavities or abscess teeth, or their gums are unhealthy from having a lot of buildup on their teeth, the level of bacteria in your mouth is that much more. So therefore, with your mouth loaded with bacteria, now you're at higher risk for infections. For persons with oral piercings, swelling around the areas or the area where the piercing is, if there is any redness, pain, you should get it attended to, because it could be a sign that there is something else going on. That's usually the first sign of an infection. And you don't want it to try to fix it on your own. So a cheek jewelry can now wreak havoc because it creates an environment for bacteria to not just adhere to the metal itself, and we'll talk about that later. These metals provide a safe haven for them to adhere to and create further problems. So you don't want to do that. So get the help that you need when you start seeing that something isn't right, and either remove it, heal, put it back, or, I will say just take it out or don't pierce it all. But if it's there and you have to, we'd have to take measures to remove it, get you healed, and if you have to and choose to do it again, it's up to you.
We've just talked to Dr. Sharon Robinson about oral piercings, but there's more. We'll be right back.
DamnGoodBeats.com.
I'm 36. I'm a husband, a manager, and still very good looking. In 2 hours, I have the most important meeting of my life. But first, it's time to play. The new Suzuki Vitara.
Have you seen it? It's BATV Live. Live streams of business news weekdays at 7:30 p.m. Stay on point Thursdays at 8 p.m. with our Business Current Affairs show, and Weekend Business Report Saturdays at 7:30 p.m. Wherever you are. Log on to our Facebook page at Business Access TV or visit our website at batvja.com. Live and at your fingertips. Business Access TV. Serious about business.
Career Moves has always explored interesting careers, highlighting all you may not have known about them. This season is no different.
Coming back to Jamaica, everyone's like, fizzy what? Fizzy who?
When you find a bright boy or girl in the class and people say, what are you going to be? The parents will say, you have to go be a doctor, you have to go be a lawyer. Nobody says you have to go be a politician.
Let me see your hands!
Tune in Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Business Access TV.
Dr. Sharon Robinson, and we've covered a lot of ground talking about oral piercings, but now it's time to discuss fashionable braces. What are they and who's getting them? So what are braces to begin with?
Braces are devices used in dentistry by orthodontists who are specialists in our field. They are used to align and straighten teeth as it relates to your bite, and of course improve your overall oral health as it relates to that. The decision on the kind of braces that an individual will have will be based on an analysis that is performed by the orthodontist. So there could be metal and ceramic, there could be all metal, there could be all ceramic, there could be just Invisalign that is done.
Dr. Robinson, we've established what braces are. Let's talk about fashionable braces. What are fashionable braces and why are they considered fashionable?
Fashionable braces as the public perceives it. I must say this growing trend, I find it somewhat disturbing for different reasons. Just similar to oral piercing, that one would subject themselves to receiving treatment by persons who do not have knowledge or proper training to place these devices. So there is talk of this trend of persons who are receiving braces on their teeth by someone who is not a dentist, not trained in the field. Are these things sterilized? Where do they come from? Is there maintenance? I don't know what is being done. The little I know of this trend at this point is the brackets are on the teeth, but not engaged. Meaning, when brackets are placed on the teeth, there are wires that act as tracks for forces to be applied over time so that teeth can be shifted. All right? Continuous force over time. What I'm learning of this practice is that part of it is not happening. So the brackets are just on the teeth with pretty bands, and patients are loving that. Here's a problem with that. By itself, just having these brackets on creates an environment where you're at higher risk for cavities, a higher risk for poor gum health. The adherence of bacteria to these metals, we talked about that with oral jewelry. You see that with brackets. It's more challenging for those who are wearing braces to clean it. And any persons you know, have you worn braces before? There tend to be a lot more buildup on these braces because they're metals or ceramics. So more cleaning has to be done. The longer these buildups are on, you run the risk of getting cavities and gum problems. It's more costly to fix these problems than to go to someone who's not trained to do it in the first place in the name of fashion. I've had to remove devices such as these from persons who would just wear it, but they can't afford anything else. What happens? You remove these brackets, there are cavities on teeth, the gums are in poor health because of the inflammatory process that starts in the mouth. And teeth will easily shift because there's no wire that's aligning it. So these are just brackets that are being put in your mouth. I don't know what it's made of. I don't know where they come from. But I find it disturbing that persons are doing that. And dentistry is very costly.
What I'm trying to understand is when they do get these fashionable braces, the intention was to straighten the teeth to fix an issue, or was the intention to make it appear that they had braces?
There are different reasons why we seek out cosmetic services.
Okay, so
there are those who need it, and there are those who just want to enhance, just a little extra. On the outside, when someone wears braces, you see a beautiful smile after. Teeth are straight, perfect. There are those patients who cannot chew properly. There are those patients who have other problems that are more severe who are required to get braces for that reason. It has nothing to do with cosmetics. The benefit of cosmetics is like the bonus, all right? So for those persons, it's almost like an insult because people want the end result, but the proper planning does not go in place for that to happen. As dentists or any medical clinician, if we are attempting to do a cosmetic procedure on a patient, the first order of business is to begin with the end in mind. Hence, time is spent during the treatment planning process, understanding why the patient is doing it, what their needs are, and all that plays a vital role. This fashion trend, I am not sure what is driving that, except to say there are persons who just like the look of braces, because if you are not trained to use these devices, you cannot straighten teeth. You can't. It is such a technical process. These orthodontists are trained for at least 3 years after receiving their dental degrees and license. I find it disturbing that persons in the public will do that. Now, my only answer to the reason is lack of information, or they're just not aware. I do not know the cost for fashion braces. I just know that I hear numbers of it being anywhere from less than $20,000 to maybe $50,000. That's, yeah. So I don't know what it's made of. I don't know how they get it. You have to have a dental license to procure some of these items that are used in dentistry. So I don't know where they're coming from or what it's made of, and it concerns me because I don't know how it's being done, and the persons who are getting it, in the end, it's going to cost them more. Cost, for example, you lose your teeth. Gee, there's a lot of value in that, because now your options would be dental implants. Can you afford that? $3,000 per tooth, approximately, US. Or wearing partials and dentures. You don't want to wear partials and dentures after making a choice like that, because it's my patients who are wearing dentures, they don't like them, but they have to wear it for function so they can chew properly. But the desire is there at some point, I'm getting out of these things. So yes, they need to not do it. Keep your teeth the way they are. It's too costly to put these braces on to end up losing value of what you have now, because you can't afford implants and getting dentures. Even though it may be affordable to get dentures, the quality of life is different. Patients who wear dentures will tell you kissing is not the same. Food does not taste the same, because these plates cover taste buds, you know. So it's not a pleasant thing, you know. I get to baby my patients and take them through the process of it, but it's not something you want to desire.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. I'm sure our viewers have learned a whole lot in regards to oral piercings and fashionable braces.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.
All right, so there you have it, guys. It's costly to keep up with these beauty trends. Maybe you should think twice before getting an oral piercing and before putting in fashionable braces. I've been your host of The Good Life, Amita Prasad Webb, and check us out next week.
Your business matters. Business Access TV offers you the most innovative and effective advertising solution for your business, specializing in B2B sales, cost-effective solutions, the customers you want, the repetition you need. No matter the size and nature of your company, your business matters. Call us at 876-618-2870 or email us at sales@batvja.com. Business Access TV, serious about business.
Thank you.
Stay current and gain